What's up, guys? Welcome to the Collab Season 1, Episode 10. We in the stew. Let's get it. My name is Josiah Ikaika Thomas the first, and we are with
Pastor Nathaniel William Burdine the first.
Come on.
Let's go.
Let's go. This podcast is about transparency, honesty, growth, collaboration. We believe we're youth pastors in Tacoma, Washington at a church called Life Center.
Let's go.
And we believe that there's a lot of conversations happening behind doors and topics are being talked about that aren't being shed light or haven't been brought to the light or haven't been bringing guidance from a pastoral perspective, or just even being spoken into. And we want to help lead this generation towards honesty and transparency, saying, hey, we don't have all the answers, but we do want to speak into some of these things and some of these topics that are being talked about. And we don't necessarily have time to preach on these things on a Sunday night atmosphere at our youth ministry. So we created this platform to help guide young adults, young people toward transparency. Yeah. And so today we are talking about this idea that this generation has no friends. The title of this podcast is I Have No Friends. So why in 2022, when we feel like we are the most connected generation ever, why would we call this episode I Have No Friends?
And the reason that we call this episode that is, I think a lot of people, obviously COVID kind of forced the issue of like, I have no friends, because immediately everyone who thought they had community realized you actually don't have as much community as you think. Wow. I think I realized that. I was like, hey, I got a couple homies. And then I realized, man, a lot of my friends are either in high schoolers, because I'm a youth pastor, or either high schoolers, my wife, or a couple homies. Like, that's really it. And so I think this generation is crippled by the fact that we are the most connected, but we're also the most disconnected, because we believe we know people when we don't know them at all. We think we have friends when we actually just have a bunch of acquaintances. And I think that's actually where either I find myself, and I think where a lot of people we keep talking about it, but Gen Z will find, or millennials will find themselves, is they have a lot of acquaintances that they consider as friends, but they're not actually real friends. They're just people that like they might just work with, or they might just like, say what's up to every now and then. And so I think we are crippled by loneliness. People are lonely. People are spending time by themselves. For me, like, my wife is in Puerto Rico, and like the family's there, and like I could spend all day by myself. I could wake up, make breakfast, play some video games, eat lunch, hop on the VR. I mean, I could, obviously I'm distracting myself during that time, but I could spend a time by myself. But that's not okay, because we were created and designed to be in community. We were actually created, Father, Son, Holy Spirit, if we're trying to get spiritual, like that was in community. So even
from
God,
the very beginning,
even God did not create without community. And so it's just interesting to me that we find ourselves, and we find so many friends that are lonely, that are anxious, that are sitting with their own thoughts. And I think the reason why I want to call this episode that is, how do I get community and how do I get friends, but also like, how do I get into a place where I can be open and vulnerable with where I'm at, with people, with the people that I have, and with the family around me.
I love this idea. We heard a pastor talk about this, that a lot of times like we have no friends because our capacity for friendship is so small. And we're this idea of like, hey, we meet, it's like, oh, we kick it off. Man, you love basketball, I love basketball. You love LeBron, I love LeBron. Lakers. I mean, you like the Eagles, I like the Seahawks. Okay, we can talk about that. But like, I do love Jalen Hurts. Hello. But like, we can kick it off and immediately like, oh man, Nate's my God, this is awesome. But the moment something happens, like the moment you get mad at me for something, the moment I go off on you for something, it's like, nope. He's not my home anymore. I'm out. And you immediately just like unfriend them, unfollow them, whatever, you're gone. But in reality, that's what strengthens the best friendships. Is saying, hey, am I willing to stick in this friendship, however new, however old it is, when there's tragedy, when there's tension, when there's a fight, when there's gossip, when there's hurt and pain? Am I able to stick it out? If you're not, you're going to be in a place where you have no friends.
Yeah.
If you are, you're going to be in a place where you have a lot of friends, because there's a lot of broken people in the world. And if you'll let them be your friend and you'll be their friend while you're broken, you'll have a lot of friends. But we don't like the mess. We don't like the brokenness. Yeah. And so when someone's gossiping about me, I'm like, nah, you're not a friend. Get out of here. And yeah, there's some truth in that. And we got to set healthy boundaries. But I think we have to grow our capacity for people's brokenness and people's mistakes, to where, man, do we really believe in this man named Jesus who's forgiven us, who's given us grace? And am I willing to extend that grace to people who may say some wild things behind my back, or may act a certain way, may be passive aggressive towards me? And it's like, I don't want that guy in my life. They're passive aggressive. They don't talk. They don't talk to me to my face. I don't like that. It's not my circle. It's like, whoa, chill out. Like, you're in process. They're in process. Like, if you want to have friends, you have to grow the capacity for people's mess.
For sure. And I think when it comes, I just preached about this, but like, I've shared about this, like the idea of loneliness is, there's a couple things. I think we in the world, or because we are in the world, okay? We're not of it, all right. But like, we that live in the world, it's funny, we always talk about other people's brokenness all the time. Man, that dude's broken. Like, you can see it. Like, dude, look at that dude. He's broken. Like, and you hear it all the time from like pastors, right? We live in an evil world. And that's true. But also, you are also a part of that. Yes, we love Jesus. Yes, we are working towards sanctification, right? Like, we are going, that is a process. But we are also a part of that. And I think it's so funny, we're ready to distance ourselves. And so we're talking especially about what that pastor said about that idea of like, we have to open our capacity of friendship, right? Is we are so willing to talk about everyone else's things that we forget about the things that we have, things that we own. Like, I'll be honest, I don't like, in meetings or in any really setting, I don't like being challenged. I don't like when not everyone agrees with my opinion. It like hurts my soul. Like, I'll melt. Like, and it's come up in meetings and things. And after a meeting, like, I'll be like, dang, Nate, like, why'd you get like that? Man. And there'll be times I'm like, man, no one wants to talk to you right now because of how you reacted in that meeting. And that's probably not true. But I think what I found is I have to see the things that bend and break me. And that's going to create more opportunity for friends. And the idea is also, I think, is when it comes to the idea of forgiveness, or it comes to friends, is I think too many of us, and we might be just going all over, but I think too many of us, we use venting as the word instead of like actually just talking about people. And so we wonder why we don't have any friends. It's because we vent about every other person to every other person. And I shared this. We just got to be able to go straight up to people. Like, if I had an issue with you, I'm gonna just come up straight to you and be like, hey, bro. Right? Or if like I see that you have a problem and you spoke to someone else crazy or someone else wild, like, I'm like, hey, bro, just here's the thought. Right? I'm not gonna come at you. I'm not gonna tell someone else like, hey, this is what happened, but I'm gonna just come straight to you. Be like, this is what's up. The only person I'll probably tell is Julia, right? Like, but I think outside of that, I think we just spend too much time. We're going, if everyone else is the problem, it's probably you. Man, everyone else doesn't get me. Everyone else doesn't understand me. Everyone else doesn't see me. That the issue is probably you. Like, and I know that's like almost like a toxic way to talk about people, because it's like, well, what if I've been this and been this? I'm like, yeah, that's different. But if you find that there's no one on the world that you can connect with because of this, and this, then there you might like, there's people in my life that I consider friends that that just irk me to my soul, like to my core. But they're still my homies. And we might disagree on a couple things. But we cool. I might not like the way they speak, but it's all right. Like, we move forward. Because those still my friends. I just don't think we have to have people that we 100% agree with 100% of the time.
And I love the idea of like, you say like, man, they don't understand me. They don't see me. They don't agree with me, whatever. But we have to always bring it back to this point of self-reflection and being like, well, like, it's okay to feel that way, but it's not okay to feel that way and not show that to other people. So it's like, if you want, I mean, you hear it all the time. So this isn't the newest thing on the market, but it's like, if you want friends, be a friend.
Yeah.
And like that never gets old because we're so self-obsessive.
Yep.
We care a lot about ourselves and our image and our status and our whatever, that we always need that reminder of like, man, if you want a lot of friends, be a friend to a lot of people.
Yeah.
But that's not the case in this society. It's like we want a lot of things for us, but we're not willing to extend that.
Yep.
Like even like it's maybe like, I don't know how long ago, a long time ago, like I used to be one of those guys where it's like, man, I don't want to hang out with them. Like they're not cool. Like they're not in my circle.
Yeah.
They're not like my type of people. But then as I get older and older, my type of people begins to grow. And people would look at me like, you're hanging out with him? It's like, yeah. Like you don't even know him. It's like, okay. Like we have some things in common. We love Jesus. And it's like, maybe he doesn't love Jesus, but like I'm able to I should be able as a follower of Jesus to sit down with anyone and become friends with them.
No.
Maybe they're not going to be my best friend, maybe they're not going to be my ride or dies, but I should have a big enough circle where I can say, hey, Riley's my friend, Chris my friend, Nate's my friend, Ksenia's my friend. She's not here. She's about to have a baby.
Hey.
But it's like, I should be able to open up my circle to more people than less people.
Yeah.
And it's like, we were talking about that idea of like keeping the circle tight. Yeah. And you're like, well, is that on purpose? Because we like to think like, oh yeah, I just want to keep my circle tight.
Oh yeah, dude.
We like to like, I just keep my circle tight. I just got my ride or dies. But it's like, well, maybe you're just not kind to other people to where your circle's not growing. And I know that sounds crazy or harsh, but that's the reality. Yeah. It's like, man, if you just open up yourself to other people and show some compassion, show some interest, in order to be interesting, show interest in other people. But it's like, we don't spend our lives like that. We want to try to be interesting, but then people are like, nah, you're fake, bro. Yeah. Like,
I keep well, and then I think about yesterday, I was thinking about this, the idea of that circle, right, is I think there's levels of people in our lives. And so I just want like everyone that's listening to understand, like you might have family like that has passed, or you might have friends who have passed, and like, people have moved. And so you're like, hey, I'm not alone because I want to be. I'm alone because my life forced me to be. And I think what happens is, so yes, there is instances where I think you have a tight circle, and it's not because you planned that, it's because no one wants to hang out with you. But I think also is you might have a tight circle, and what I think when we have a tight circle and we have a circle of people, we have to have another circle around us to protect us, another group of people around us, right? So I'm thinking about the Target logo, like there's something in the middle, which I would say is you. And do you have levels of people to protect you around you? Good. And I think that's what I've tried to build in my life, like is creating people that are around me. And so I have my closest friends who know everything, like the stuff that none of y'all know, like those are my homies, and they know that. And then I got other homies, and I got more friends, and obviously like my wife is the closest, and like, but we have people that can protect us, people that can surround us. And if everything fell down today, those people would still be with you. And then and I guess that's where it also leads me is, are you willing, when your friends or the people around you, their brokenness pours out, are you willing to stay with them? I know we talk about like cancel culture and all this kind of stuff, but I've been convicted lately, and I think I've told you a little bit about this, but I've been convicted lately when it comes to the area of forgiveness or the area of like judgment of people, that I'm like, how could they do that? Or can you believe? Or talking about it all the time. And then when I look in the mirror, I'm like, shoot, Nate, you're you. Like, Nate, you know your things. And I'm like, oh, snap. And I've been like heavily, like my chest is getting tight right now. I've been like heavily convicted because I feel like many friends that I have that are like, oh, we're just venting about it. We're just talking about it. And I'm like, man, like that person's struggling. Their soul is broken. Their families are broken. And shouldn't we be spending more time praying for those people, spending more time saying, hey, we can connect with those people? And if we want to get super real, I think, we think about all those people who have fallen from grace. I always think about who's the person that's actually talking to them? Like, who's actually going to reach out to them? Okay, because we can talk about them all day, but that person, more often than not, hopefully they're seeing the pain of what happened, and who's actually connecting with them.
Yeah.
And so maybe you're that person. You feel like you've blew it all, you've broken, all that kind of stuff, and don't be scared to reach out.
Yeah.
Find a therapist, find a counselor, because I think so often we spend so much time in our own thoughts that we're saying, oh, woe is me, I'm the worst. We've heard the stat, right? 85% of the things that we think are going to happen don't happen.
Yep.
Like when we're anxious and worried. So like all the things I worry about, 85% of those things aren't going to happen. And the 15%, they're not even as strong as we think there are. Like the repercussions from what if they knew, like, aren't even as strong. So share to the people that you have, the community that you have, and build more friends. And so I know I'm going, I think it's so crucial to understand, not all people are just jerks and like don't have great circles, but I think there's some people who are just like, okay, well, how? And I think we have to be able to be around people's, like you said, around people's brokenness and share what we have as well. So you are alone, but you don't have to stay that way. Yeah. You don't have to stay that way.
Yeah. There's a need, like an innate need inside of all of us for connection. Yep. And if we're not getting that connection, then like we run dry, and that's like where our anxiety comes in, our loneliness comes in, and we have to surround ourselves like those. I love that imagery, because it's like, yeah, you may have your tight circle, but that tight circle should show you the most love, care, and see you the most. Yep. Like actually see like who you are, your dreams, your pain. Yeah. Then this circle should do the same thing, just on a different scale. Yeah. Then this circle should see you, and this circle should see you. But if we're not being seen by people, then we start running dry. And I mean, I'm on this devotional plan with a friend of mine, and today I want to read it, but it was talking about the different sides of our brain, and kind of like what happens, because this is like the loneliness pandemic is biological too. Like this is science. And so yes, it's spiritual, but it's also physical. Yeah. And so it says this: the right side of the brain is emotional processing. Left side of the brain is logical processing. When we experience despair or anxiety, our heart goes into overdrive and logical processing decreases. When we have connection with people, it disrupts this process. So we're able to disrupt this process of our logical processing decreasing when we feel lonely and anxious by actually connecting with people, which will help our logical processing increase and help us to function better in the world and society. But so you may see people who are crippled by anxiety, and they're not successful in their job, they're not successful in their relationships, they're not creative, they're not this or that. It's because that side of their brain is dry. Yeah. Because the emotional side has ran into overdrive to where everything else is empty. And so, but when we start to see people, see all of who they are, that connection in our heart and soul and our brain is met, and we're able to actually logically process and be a functioning human in society. So like it's both, this thing is a spiritual topic, loneliness, but it's also a physical one. And understanding that, yeah, the things that happen to you, like it happens first in your brain. And so it's like your brain can be a messy place, but let's clean up that mess and understand like, yeah, it's going to get messy again. But if we never address the mess in our brain or in our heart, then we're going to continue to be anxious, and we're going to continue to like possibly hurt people in our lives, and hurt ourselves by isolating. Because our heart desires that connection with others and that connection with God.
That's it's so true, because like I've had cousins that have been like in prison, and when they get out, it's funny. It's not funny prison, but like what's funny is a lot of times we don't want to hang out with those people, right? Well, they were in prison, like what they did and what happened. And the fact of the matter is like prison is a terrible place. Yeah. Like it's not really rehabilitation at all. Right. But that's what it's supposed to be. And the way that it's supposed to be is group therapy. Is like, I know it seems corny, but circle discussions talking about what we've done and all those different things. And but you know, my cousins getting out of prison, a lot of them went right back because they got back out, and guess who wanted to hang out with them? Nobody.
Yep.
But you know who gave them it? The gang members.
Mm-hmm.
They gave them community.
Yep.
Right? They needed what they needed. And so it's funny that like we see like, to me, while they have caused pain, they are really very vulnerable people in our nation. And we put them to the side, we exile. Actually in James 2 it talks about this idea that will favorite more people, like the sin of favoritism, this idea that will favorite people according to their status, according to who they are, than over these people. And so if we're unwilling to be community for those people who get out, and then we wonder why people are okay with just spending all their time alone, like this is why, because they're forced to be alone. Yeah. Even like, and I love what you said, every human, you can be the most introverted human and you could like spending time alone. At some point you'll need connection. Yep. At some point you'll need a person. At some point you'll need to hear a person's voice. I know they've done studies where they've like taken babies and like kept them away from their mother for a couple days. That baby can't survive. Yeah. Baby can't survive without its parents. Yep. They've done, you know, you've had these crazy people who have sat in these like siloed rooms, quiet by themselves, right? You think, oh, I want to hang out by myself all day. Okay, wait till you have no distractions, no phone, none of this stuff. How long do you want to hang out with yourself? Yep. Because honestly, like if I had no distractions, I could probably hang out with myself for about 6 minutes. And I'm probably going to call Josiah and be like, you trying to play Warzone, bro? I'm done with this. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, I think we have to be able to open ourselves up to that as well. And I love that idea that when we are in community, we actually think way better of ourselves. We actually realize you're not as terrible as you think. Like when I'm in my anxiety, when a lot of people are anxiety and loneliness, you make yourself the worst human on earth. Oh, well, they don't, you know, like I messed up. I did this, right? And it might just be like you yelled at someone or you got upset. And I've had like Julia and my family's had to remind me like, you are not alone. Yeah. You are not the first human to struggle with A, with B, with X. And so I'm like, oh, okay. But that's only done in community. Like, why have I been playing basketball every day at the YMCA? I'm home alone. Yeah. So I'm going to go play basketball at the Y, kick it with some homies. Yep. Actually, I don't know any of these kids, but they think they know me. They always ask me. They say wild things to me, but they always ask me, whoa, is that ring real? Yes, it's real.
Are you really married? Aren't you in high school?
Yeah, what, bro? And you're married? I want to be married. Like, dude, chill out. All that to be said, like, even myself, like, who I think, you know, as I lead people and stuff, like, I find myself like, I'm just going to go play basketball. Not to really, for some of the sweat, for some of the workout, some of it's been like, I'm just going to hang out with these people and go hoop. But we were created that way, whether you like it or not. That's how you were designed. That's how he created you, and you can't get away from it. So,
how do you find, like, how do you find community, but how do you go through the process of finding the best community for yourself? Because hearing about your family and like, man, you're not alone. Like you're not the first person to struggle. You're not the first person to blah, blah, blah. It's like, that's awesome. That's it. That's the community we want. But maybe someone's watching or listening and like, well, like I've tried that. Or I have a lot of connections with people, but it's not that type of connection. They're not truly seeing me. So it's like, how do I find those people, the true community, the true connection that my heart desires, but I'm not getting from my friends right now?
Yeah, I think it's just how you connect with people. Like I'm an extroverted person, so it's super in my top like strength or whatever is like woo. So like immediately like in my life, I'm able just to like, I'll try to connect with people just to win people over because I'm like, oh, I love people, right? But I think it's interests. I think a lot of it has to do with like faith life and all that kind of stuff. But I think it's be willing to. We talked about this episode a little bit, right? Like you know me, like, I love it. Listen to people. Actually listen. And I think what we'll find is if I were to ask any of us in this room, like, hey, tell me about this, this, and this, and this, I can make a judgment perceived on you based on who you voted for, this, what team you like, all that kind of stuff. Or I could just listen to your story and tell me what's going on. Tell me about your life. And I think it would be, are you willing to have deep conversation with people? The reason we don't connect with a lot of people is we're unwilling to have deep conversation with them. There's friends I have today who I was like, I do not like that person. And now we're like the best of friends.
Yeah.
And it's so weird, but it's actually because I sat down and listened to their story and their lives and what's going on. And in my family, like stuff gets deep super quick. So like I'll be sitting down with my mother-in-law and she'll ask one question and we'll get deep quick. Father-in-law, one question, get deep quick. But that's just the way I operate. But also I listen to them, right? So since we work in the church, I'm sure you get this a lot of people come to me with the bashes they have against the church, Big C Church, right? Nate, why does the church do this? Why do they do? I'm like, I don't know. I don't work for, like, I work for the local church. I don't work in heaven. I don't know why this works this way. But they're always come to me. And instead of going, trying to protect myself, I just let them talk.
Yeah.
Oh, shoot. You've been really hurt. Oh, snap. Something I've said has hurt you. Oh, my bad. And so I think it's willing to listen to people as well before you like learn like, oh, what do we connect on? Because I think that's what everyone's wanting, right? Like, what do we connect on?
Yep.
Right. And I think it's easy for us because we connect on a bunch of different levels. But, how do I connect with a story I have a friend, his name's Noah. And I don't think he's on the spectrum, but he has like a learning disability and he makes rap music and it's just a great guy. And he lives in Eatonville. And he doesn't drive. So every other month, I drive to Eatonville. I told you about this. I drive to Eatonville. No, I'm not saying that to shit. And I know it sounds like, oh, he's trying to pour himself on, but no one hangs out with that guy. And if he's watching this, like I love Noah. But he texts me, hey, can we hang out? Yep, let's kick it.
Yeah. And
I don't say one word. And I'll probably drive there and pay for the meal. I'm good.
Yeah.
What's up, bro? How you doing? No one's going to connect with this dude. And it's really not a friendship for me. Like, honestly, I do walk away encouraged because he loves Jesus. Yeah, like, this dude loves Jesus. Like, more than me. Okay? He loves Jesus. But it's for him.
Yeah.
And so I think sometimes we use our friendships of what can I get from it?
Yeah.
Maybe you can give something to another person.
Yeah.
Right. And so I don't know. I as I think about Noah, like me and him are on completely different sides of where you think people would hang out at.
Yep.
But me and him connect over some greasy Eatonville food every other month.
Yep.
And it's a good time. So.
Yeah. And I think even with a person like Noah who lives in Eatonville, where people are like, well, where's Eatonville? I don't even know where Washington is. It's like, it's a mob.
Yep.
Like, what is that, 40 minutes?
It's a good hour, actually.
An hour away.
Yeah.
So for someone even an hour away, you could be like, hey, let's FaceTime. You could DM him. You could comment on his social media. You could text him all the time. But yet it's like those things are good. And I love how social media has connected people like across the entire world. And I think that's an amazing resource. Yep. But at the same time, like your friend group should not only be on social media platforms. It has to exist in the physical world. It can't just exist online. It's good online. There's people across the US where I'm like, yeah, they're my friend simply because we're able to DM. I'm able to see stuff. They're able to see stuff. And we try to dive deep within like conversation over online platforms. But at the same time, when they are in the area or we are within driving distance, we got to make that happen because if it's just online, it's unsustainable. It's not true friendship. It's not true relationship. We have to be willing to go the extra mile or the extra 40 miles to Eatonville and be like, hey, yo, what's up?
Yep.
Because that's the real connection. And so for anyone watching, it's like, yeah, have the 1 million followers, have the 1 million subscribers, but also have the 1 million friends in real life. Yeah. Like, don't just try to get that follower count all the way up and have your follower account in the real life drop. Because that's what happens. It's like we try to increase this platform, but our real platform in reality drops because people are like, you're so focused on these people around the world who don't know you, don't necessarily care about your life, your family, your struggle, your dreams. But yet there's people right here in your city down the road that you won't even walk outside your door and go hang out with.
Yeah.
And so we have to have that connection, both, yes, online, but also in person.
Exactly. And I think I think like for me, the last thing is like being able to put more in as you share that is if we all just try to out-friend each other, we'd actually be like super healthy. I think it's just so transactional focused. And I think about like this, right? Like obviously like no matter what, you go to bed and you are in your own body, like it's you. And for a lot of people, like you're going to bed by yourself. And so like you're gonna have to get up and like you spend the most time with yourself. And I think so often like we go to friendships like, okay, what can I get? Especially extroverted people, dang extroverts, like you spend your whole life, what can I get from these people? I want energy. Whoa. I don't think we can't live life like that.
Yeah.
Like, what am I gonna get? What am I gonna get? And it's I'm just gonna like, how am I gonna pour into this person? What can I give to this person? And I used to think like people were like corny when they were like, I like pouring into the next generation. Like I was like, that's weird. Like no one's asked you for that. Yeah. But what I found is actually their friendships, a lot of them might be mentor based. Like you might have different levels of friendship.
Yeah.
I pour into this person. I'm sure you have friendships where you're like, this person, I really don't get anything, but I pour into this person and they're blessed. And honestly, I like talking, so I'm blessed, so we good. And so I just think we spend so much time trying to get from people. What did I get from this friendship? They don't get me what I want. And I think there's healthy ways to look at that. And I think there's unhealthy ways, like if a person's always like mad and they're always gossiping to you, that's probably not the best friend, right? Because what you're giving them is your listening ear. That's probably not the best thing to give a person. But we just can't live our relationships transactional based, because then that's also where you'll find yourself going, right? Because social media is not the real world. In the real world, people don't like being treated like products and transactional. And on social media, they are treated like that. But like they don't like being treated like that. So when you treat people in that way, they can see it. They can smell it from a mile away. So are we willing to treat people like human and be like, you know what? I'm just gonna be like, try to be the best friend of Josiah today. And if I can do that, cool. I met my quota of being his friend. But if I was like, man, Josiah didn't get me what I wanted today, that's a weird way to live friendships and relationships.
That's good. I would say one of the best marriage advices I was given was by Pastor Tyler and Amber. And they looked at Lauren and I and said, the best thing you can do is try to outserve one another. Like in your marriage, it will last if you try to outserve one another every single day. And Lauren and I always bring ourselves back to that point. And like sometimes she gets mad at me because she's like, just let me do something. I'm like, no, I'm going to outserve you. Like, and I'm competitive, so I'm like, I'm going to outserve you. But I'm so excited to serve you. But we live our life like that, and it's so fulfilling. So like I love what you said, like out-friend someone. Yes, that's how you fulfill things in your heart, by having that perspective of not like, man, they need to be the best friend for me. If they're not, they're out. It's like, no, try to be the best friend to them, and watch how fulfilling that is in your heart. No matter how countercultural it may seem to be a better friend to someone than they are to you, but that's actually the kingdom of God. That's actually true love and true grace. For while we were yet sinners, He died for us. We were the worst friend to Jesus, but He's like, nah, you're my best friend.
That's my boy. That's my girl.
Like, boom, died on cross, salvation, heaven, like all that stuff. And we were the worst person ever. But it's like, and then we look and I'm going to hop off you're
going in on the scripture.
But we just have to do that to people. And if we truly believe in Jesus, then we have to love people like Jesus loved us.
That's what He said. That's what He said. And the number one, we keep going back to it, we're in scripture today. So when people are like, they don't talk about the scripture, it's right here. Greatest commandment is what? Love God, love people. And so love those people. You got those people that are like, they don't talk about the Bible. Well, here it is, right? Greatest commandment. It's love God, love His people. They're equal. That's what He said. And so in loving people isn't me just taking all the time. It's actually pouring into. And so, I mean, I find all the time, like for me, I'm just like, cool, what can I do? Sometimes I get lazy. I really don't want to do stuff. But just thinking like, how can I serve this? How can I make it a step above for these people that are around me? And I think that's when we'll have a healthier church community, healthier world, healthier people. Because we're supposed to set the example. And I think we actually set the worst example on what it's like to be friends to each other in a Christian space.
Yeah, that's crazy. Well, thank you guys so much for listening. Bless you.
Thank you.
For listening. And I hope, like, if you feel like you're in a place where you have no friends, that this episode encourages you to not only like go out and get some new friends, but to be a better friend. And it lifts your heart and soul and kind of gives you some direction in this pandemic of loneliness. Yeah. And so thank you guys so much for listening. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. The team puts in a lot of work to make this happen, and we're so grateful for them. Subscribe to YouTube, comment. We love the comments, love the feedback. 5 stars only.
5 stars only.
Like we say. I'm joking. You can give us 2.5 if you like, but just tell us the reason why.
But it will be deleted. But yeah, great.
If we don't like it, it's deleted. But share it. It's on Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Like it, follow it, share it with your friends. Get the word out. But the collab, let's get it.
Let's get it. Peace.